So, what if I told you that the ultimate goal of your life, like the one thing you are trying to achieve every single day, is actually biologically rigged to fail?
It sounds like a pretty massive design flaw, honestly.
Right. I mean, think about how you normally set a goal. It's usually this really straightforward process. You want to learn Spanish, so you study vocabulary.
Yeah, cause and effect.
Exactly. You want to run a marathon, you put on your shoes and you train. It's a direct line from your effort to the result. But when you look at the pursuit of happiness, treating that feeling as a targeted destination is exactly what drives you right off a cliff.
It totally backfired.
It really does. And we are looking at a fascinating stack of psychological syntheses and philosophical critiques today. The mission for this deep dive is clear. We are pulling the ultimate thread on self-improvement to figure out why treating happiness as your default state is, actively ruining things for you.
Yeah, and the problem really starts with how we fundamentally redefine the target itself.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because you're saying the definition changed.
Oh, completely. Modern culture basically took this deeply demanding, ancient philosophical concept of a good life, and we just collapsed it into something embarrassingly thin.
Like just feeling good.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We've reduced the entirety of human flourishing to
Mhm.
just feeling good as often as possible.
Yeah.
And the results of this Western, particularly American cultural experiment are pretty much in.
And it's not looking great for us.
Not at all. I mean,
Mhm.
we have optimized our routines, our diets, our apps, all for bliss. And frankly, the pursuit is leaving us utterly exhausted. The harder we try to force the feeling, the further it retreats.
Which is heavily documented in the research as the happiness paradox. The sources we're looking at today are unanimous on this point.
Yeah, it's one of the most robust findings in well-being psychology.
Right, the finding that happiness is essentially a byproduct. It is a shadow cast by other things being right in your life. The second you turn around and try to grab the shadow directly,
It just vanishes.
it completely vanishes. And why is that?
Well, the mechanism behind that disappearance is what psychologists call the monitoring trap.
The monitoring trap.
Right. To pursue happiness as a concrete goal, your brain has to constantly evaluate your progress. You end up constantly asking your internal weather station, like, am I happy yet? How about now?
Am I feeling as good as I should be feeling right now?
Exactly. And the act of asking the question destroys the feeling.
Which means you aren't actually experiencing your life anymore. You're just grading it. You instantly create this gap between whatever your current state is and your desired state, which introduces this baseline hum of anxiety.
Yeah, the philosopher John Stuart Mill recognized this perfectly centuries ago. He wrote that the moment you ask yourself if you are happy, you cease to be so.
Oh, that is so spot on. It sounds exactly like insomnia to me.
Oh, how so?
Well, the harder you try to force yourself to fall asleep, the more you think about the mechanics of sleeping, the more awake and panicked you become.
Yes. That analogy works perfectly because they actually share the exact same neurological mechanism.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I mean, self-consciousness requires a lot of cognitive bandwidth. When you are hyper-focused on monitoring your emotional state, you are literally hijacking the part of your brain that allows you to lose yourself in an experience.
So you can't be fully immersed in a moment and simultaneously evaluate that moment.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You just can't do both. You can't execute sleep as a targeted task,
Oh.
and you can't execute happiness that way either. You just have to set the right conditions, turn off the lights, and let it happen to you.
Wow. And it's not just our cognitive psychology that rebels against this forced pursuit, right? It is our fundamental biology.
Oh, absolutely. Our evolutionary wiring is a huge part of this.
Which is absolutely wild to dig into. The sources detail this biological mechanism called hedonic adaptation.
The hedonic treadmill.
Right. Basically, humans possess this incredibly powerful homeostatic force. To put it simply, think of it like a biological rubber band. It always snaps your mood back to its original shape, no matter how far it gets stretched by external events.
Yeah, and the data on this completely normalizes our wildest assumptions about what makes a good life.
It really does. I mean, they cite these famous replicated studies comparing people who have experienced massive life-altering events.
Right? The lottery study. Researchers looked at individuals who had just won the lottery, so coming into immense, sudden wealth.
The ultimate fantasy for most people.
Exactly. And they compared their emotional trajectories with individuals who became paraplegics after catastrophic accidents.
Two completely opposite extremes of human fortune. A fantasy versus an absolute nightmare.
Yet the finding that shocks everyone is that roughly 1 year after those life-changing events, both groups report remarkably similar levels of baseline happiness.
Wait, really? A year later, they're just the same?
Yeah, they return to their individual set points.
Hmm.
The brain actively works to normalize the new environment. The thrill of the wealth just fades into background noise.
And I guess the devastation of the paralysis eventually just becomes the new normal that the brain adapts to.
Precisely. Biologically, we are designed to normalize improvements and adapt to deficits.
But wait, I have to push back on this a little bit. On behalf of anyone listening who is currently working really hard to improve their situation,
Sure, go ahead.
if our set point is mostly fixed and our brain just normalizes everything after a year anyway, doesn't that make all our modern efforts to level up our lives completely pointless?
I can see why it feels that way.
I mean, why try to get the promotion or buy the nicer house or find a better partner if biology is just going to erase the joy a few months later?
Well, if we connect this to the bigger picture, you have to look at what human biology is actually designed to achieve.
Which is what?
Survival. It is designed for survival, threat detection, and navigating the environment. It is definitely not designed for permanent bliss.
Okay, that makes sense.
Think about an ancient human ancestor out on the savannah. Imagine they achieved a state of permanent, unshakable contentment after, say, eating a really good meal or finding a warm cave.
Oh, I see where this is going.
That perfectly happy ancestor would be a massive liability to the tribe.
Because they'd just sit there under a tree. They'd stop gathering food for the winter. They'd stop scanning the horizon for predators.
Exactly. They wouldn't bother inventing better tools. Discontent, restlessness, the drive for more. These are evolutionary imperative.
Wow. So a perfectly happy ancestor is a dead ancestor.
Pretty much. Human emotions evolved to be temporary, fluctuating feedback mechanisms. They are data signals telling you how to interact with your environment.
Not permanent destinations to move into.
Right, so this biological reset isn't some cruel curse that makes our efforts pointless. It's the engine that keeps the human species moving forward.
But it does mean that chasing a permanently higher baseline of joy through external changes, like a new job or a new car, is basically fighting a biological tide that you simply cannot beat.
You really can't.
Well, if biology actively prevents permanent bliss, it's pretty wild that we live in a society that constantly pressures us to perform it anyway.
Oh, it's exhausting.
The sources call this the tyranny of the grin. There is this pervasive social friction where we are implicitly told to suppress our authentic, messy human experiences just to present this fake facade of contentment for everyone else.
Yeah, we have managed to completely pathologize the human experience.
Pathologize it.
Yeah, by that I mean we started treating completely normal, healthy human reactions like existential discomfort, grief, or even just a neutral, boring Tuesday.
Right, just a regular day.
We treat them as biological bugs or mental illnesses that need to be medicated or fixed, rather than essential features of a working mind.
Here's where it gets really interesting, because the research argues that these negative emotions aren't malfunctions at all. We've basically been treating the dashboard warning lights in our car as annoyances to be smashed with a hammer.
Instead of actually reading the dashboard.
Exactly. Rather than seeing them as crucial data telling us how to safely drive the vehicle, we just want to turn the light off.
That is exactly the cultural misstep. Let's look at the specific generative power of these so-called negative states.
Okay, let's do it.
When we suppress them to perform happiness, we lose their functional value entirely. Take sadness and grief. They are terrible to experience, obviously.
Nobody wants to feel grief.
No, but they signal what we truly value. You don't grieve something you didn't love. Processing that grief profoundly deepens our capacity for empathy toward others who are suffering.
And anger. We're constantly told to just let it go and be positive all the time, but anger actually clarifies your values.
Yes, the biological purpose of anger is to signal a boundary violation.
Right. It is the fuel that motivates the necessary action to protect yourself or your community from being taken advantage of.
Then there is anxiety, which sharpens your attention and prepares your body to handle genuine risk.
Or boredom. I feel like we absolutely hate boredom now.
We can't stand it. But boredom is a vital neurological signal that you aren't being sufficiently challenged.
So if you numb your boredom every single time it creeps up, like by pulling out your smartphone to get a mild dopamine hit on social media,
you never use the friction of that boredom to create something new or change your life path.
the syntheses we're looking at specifically highlight dissatisfaction as the primary engine for human growth and creativity. A life successfully purged of all these discomforts where you just feel good all the time isn't actually a better life.
No, it's just a pleasant flat line.
A pleasant flat line. Wow.
And that connects to the concept of anti-fragility. Think about how you build physical strength. Muscles require microtrauma, like the literal tearing of fibers through resistance training, to grow stronger and more capable.
Right, no pain, no gain, literally.
Exactly. The human mind operates the exact same way. It requires the processing of difficult, heavy emotions to build psychological resilience.
So a pleasant flatline existence is actually fundamentally fragile.
Highly fragile.
Yeah.
The person who has meticulously curated a life devoid of serious suffering or friction is often the person who understands the world the least, and they're the least capable when a real crisis inevitably hits.
So if negative emotions are actually vital data points, if they are the literal resistance training for our character, we really have to ask what they are guiding us toward.
And the research points decisively away from fleeting pleasure and toward a much deeper, heavier concept.
Meaning.
Yes, meaning. Which brings us to a critical distinction that ancient philosophers completely understood, but we've somehow forgotten. The difference between hedonia and eudaimonia.
Hedonia and eudaimonia. Break those down for us.
Sure. So hedonia is simply feeling good in the moment, pleasure, comfort, eating a tasty meal, the absence of physical pain. This is what modern culture usually calls happiness.
Okay. And eudaimonia.
Eudaimonia, on the other hand, is a Greek concept. It translates roughly to flourishing through purpose, virtue, and living up to your highest potential.
And the catch is, pursuing eudaimonia, like pursuing deep meaning,
Yeah.
almost always requires sacrificing momentary hedonia.
Almost always.
Because the most deeply valuable human undertakings are systematically excluded from a happiness-optimized life because they are, frankly, genuinely unpleasant in the moment.
The statistical data on parenting is the classic example here.
Oh, yeah, the parenting paradox.
Right. Raising children is consistently associated with lower moment-to-moment happiness compared to non-parents. I mean, it is highly stressful, chronically exhausting, and financially draining.
You are sacrificing sleep, money, personal freedom, everything.
But when researchers ask those exact same parents about their overall life satisfaction, parenting is simultaneously associated with a dramatically elevated sense of deep meaning and purpose.
It's the same for mastering a difficult craft. You don't get to be a virtuoso at the violin or like a master woodworker without thousands of hours of sheer agonizing frustration.
Or caring for aging parents.
Yeah.
Or committing to social justice.
Right, which inherently requires confronting moral outrage and enduring long periods of uncertainty, pushback, and defeat. None of that feels good in the moment.
No, it doesn't. And the psychiatrist Viktor Frankl is really the ultimate touchdown for this distinction.
Yeah, his work is incredible.
Having survived the brutal horrors of the Nazi concentration camps, he observed human psychology under literally the most extreme duress imaginable.
And what did he find?
He noted that survival was not determined by a person's positive affect or their ability to stay optimistic. In fact, the optimists were often the first to perish.
Wait, really? The optimists broke first?
Yes, because their expectations of rescue, they'd say, we'll be out by Christmas, we'll be out by Easter. Those expectations were constantly broken.
Oh.
The repeated crushing of their optimistic baseline just destroyed them. The people who endured were those who could find or maintain a profound sense of meaning.
Like a reason to keep going.
Exactly. Whether it was a spouse they desperately needed to see again, a manuscript they needed to finish, or simply the defiant dignity of how they bore their suffering.
Meaning sustains people through the darkest elements of the human experience. Momentary happiness simply cannot carry that weight.
It's not strong enough.
If you're listening to this and you're exhausted from a grinding project at work, or you're emotionally drained from taking care of a sick family member, society implicitly tells you that you're failing at being happy.
You're bombarded with messages that you need self-care.
Right. Take a spa day, go on a vacation, fix your mood. But actually, if you look at the research, you're succeeding at being meaningful. You are engaging in the exact friction that builds a robust, consequential human life.
That reframe is absolutely vital for our modern sanity. Because if you optimize your daily routine only for the absence of friction and the maximization of comfort, you systematically strip your life of the very things that give it weight and significance.
It's wild that meaning is proven to be this durable, anti-fragile thing, yet you literally can't scroll on your phone for 5 minutes without being sold the exact opposite. We are actively being conditioned away from eudaimonia.
Oh, completely.
Why is the modern world trying to sell us a thin, fragile version of happiness?
Well, because the pursuit of mood has been heavily monetized.
Ah, there it is.
Yeah. The happiness industry, The endless rows of self-help books, the premium wellness apps, the specialized mood-boosting supplements, the really expensive mindfulness retreats.
It's a massive market.
It is. And it's economically dependent on the consumer feeling a constant deficit.
So what does this all mean? It basically means your perceived mood deficit is their core revenue stream.
Exactly.
If you wake up feeling just okay or maybe a little melancholy, the culture tells you that you have a problem that needs to be fixed. And conveniently, they have a monthly subscription or a product for you to buy to fix it.
It's a perfect business model. But this commercialization of our emotions actually isolates us. And it is heavily exacerbated by the comparison tax we pay every single time we open social media.
The comparison tax, that's a great term.
We look at the highly curated highlight reels of other people's alleged bliss, their vacations, their perfect meals, their smiling families, and it creates a completely warped baseline.
It makes our neutral, boring days feel like personal shortcomings.
Yes. And when we feel that shortcoming, when we feel like we are failing at being happy, what do we naturally do? We turn our focus entirely inward.
We try to optimize our own morning routines, our own diets, our own journaling practices. We just become incredibly self-obsessed.
The research by psychologist Iris Mouse on this specific phenomenon is fascinating.
What did you find?
She ran studies measuring how much value people place on feeling happy, and she found that people who highly value personal happiness are statistically more likely to experience increased loneliness and reduced empathy.
That is such a gut punch. The very act of trying to be happy isolates you. How does that cognitive shift actually happen?
Well, it comes back down to cognitive bandwidth. The happiness seeker is perpetually monitoring their internal weather. Because they are so focused on the question, am I feeling good right now? All their cognitive attention is pulled inward.
So they literally don't have room for anyone else.
Right. When 90% of your mental energy is spent evaluating your own mood, there is literally zero bandwidth left to observe the people around you, to empathize with a partner's bad day, or to engage with your community's needs.
By buying into the happiness industry, we aren't just wasting our money. We're literally blinding ourselves to the communities and relationships that would actually give us the deep meaning we're starving for.
What's fascinating here is how historically anomalous this all is.
You mean compared to how humans used to live?
Exactly. Framing personal happiness as the primary overriding purpose of life is a culturally parochial, very recent Western invention.
Really?
Oh, yeah. For the vast majority of human history, cultures organize themselves around much heavier concepts: duty, community, honor, cosmic order. The ancient Greeks, the Stoics, traditional Eastern philosophies, they didn't wake up asking, how can I maximize my pleasant sensations today?
They asked, what is required of me today? What are my obligations to my family and my city?
Yes. And paradoxically, by looking outward and fulfilling those heavy requirements, they often found a deep, abiding satisfaction that modern happiness seekers just can't seem to buy.
Because true flourishing happens obliquely. It is the shadow cast by doing other things well. It arrives when you look outward, not inward.
Exactly.
So if we are taking the pursuit of happiness off the table entirely, if we're just deleting that destination from our mental GPS, what do the syntheses and philosophical sources tell us we should be seeking instead?
The sources outline 3 alternative frameworks that are much more robust and, honestly, a lot more attainable.
Okay, let's hear them.
The first is tranquility. Now, tranquility isn't about feeling positive or relaxed all the time. It's about dropping the meta-struggle against your own mind.
Dropping the meta-struggle, what does that look like?
It basically means being at peace with whatever state you happen to be in. If you are sad, you simply accept that you are sad. You aren't layering anxiety on top of the sadness by wondering why you aren't happy.
Oh, I see. It's not passive defeatism. It's just refusing to fight the reality of your current emotion.
Exactly. It's stepping off a treadmill.
Okay, what's the second framework?
The second framework they mention is contentment, aiming for a steady baseline of just good enough.
Good enough. That sounds almost underwhelming.
Well, contentment is powerful because it lowers the bar of expectation. If you expect every single day to be a 9 out of 10, you will be constantly disappointed.
True.
But if you shift your baseline expectation to good enough, it allows for the natural emotional ups and downs of a human life without demanding a constant, unsustainable high.
That makes a ton of sense. And the third framework?
The third framework is engagement. The sources describe this as the underrated life.
Oh, I absolutely love this.
You are out of your own head and engaged with the friction of reality. Consider how future historians will look back at our 21st century culture.
They'll probably think we were crazy.
They might. Will they view our obsession with optimizing our mood and purging negative emotions as a bizarre, misguided medicalization of the human soul?
Oh, wow.
Think about it. Much like we look back at medieval doctors using leeches to balance the humors and bleed out illnesses, future generations might look at our relentless toxic positivity in our mood tracking apps as a primitive, almost barbaric attempt to cure the fundamental beautiful condition of just being alive.
That is a phenomenal, heavy thought to leave on. Are we leeching our own souls to cure ourselves of being human? If you're listening to this, maybe it's time to stop checking your internal weather. Let the storm happen if it's happening. Embrace the friction, the boredom, and the frustration in your day. It means you're actually doing something that matters, something that builds resistance and meaning. Delete happiness as the destination in your GPS. Go get utterly absorbed in something outside of yourself and see what you stumble into along the way.